way. The dog! It's a weird bit on this side. So the first time I tried CrossFit was in 2009. It was in a group fit room. I was upstairs actually at Mingara, and I was on a rower doing some intervals. One of the trainers there, Jamie, came up to me and said, hey mate, I think there's this thing you'd really like to try out. Come downstairs in about 15 minutes, we're going to do this thing called CrossFit. And at that stage I'd just been sort of running and rowing as my main conditioning pieces. Went down to the back room. The first ever workout I did was Kalsu, which is a pretty rough introduction to CrossFit. If you haven't done Kalsu before, it's 100 thrusters, and every time the clock beeps at the minute, you have to drop down and do 5 burpees. And at this stage, obviously, we didn't have any barbells or anything like that, like this type of stuff. So we had to get our pump bars and load them up to sort of 30 to 40 kilos, or I had a static bar. I don't know if you've been to a Globo gym, but they've got like these cemented ends on them where, you know, it's just like essentially one locked bar and you can pick your weight. So it goes like 15, 20, 25. And I was lucky, I picked up a 30 because it was my first session. I thought that was pretty heavy. The RX was 40. 3, 2, 1, go, and we're all sort of facing the mirrors because that's all there was then. And then, yeah, I just remember thinking, this is hectic. Like I felt like I was going to spew the whole time. The bar was extremely heavy. I hadn't squatted much before, so the bar was extremely heavy. The boys were moving quite quick, Corey and Jamie, and you know, it was the first time I'd seen people sort of zone in and have a real hard go at something in the gym. You know, sometimes if you go to a run or a football game, you see that type of stuff where there's competition involved. But in a Globo commercial gym, it was the first time where, you know, they sort of put their blinders on, didn't care what I thought, didn't care what anyone else thought, and just went as hard as they could. And you know, it sort of stimulated me to push a little bit. And yeah, it was terrible. I think it took me like maybe 16, 17 minutes at 30 kilos. And I was an absolute mess. There was probably 4 or 5 of us, and I reckon maybe 3 of us spewed. I don't remember anything like I remember that first session. I obviously remember some crazy games days and stuff like that. But yeah, that was my introduction to CrossFit, and it was a full stinger. It was unbelievable. I loved it. I didn't recognise myself as somebody with an addictive personality or anything like that, but I just remember the feeling of that type of training, being just addicted to feeling like I'd accomplished something, and that kind of it stimulated my growth in that sphere and wanting to do more, whether it was coaching or training. That really stimulated my mentality of, okay, I can be a little bit better, I can do a little bit better. Yeah, how CrossFit's changed. One, I guess it's huge. When we started in 2009, when we started, it really was community based. And when I say that, I mean, like, you could go to a park, and if someone was walking past and you're doing CrossFit in the park, you would happily invite that person in to do a session with you. It never had a stigma with it. It never had, you know, the craziness of, you know, injuries or you know, addictive personalities or anything like that. Chaos, I guess, chaos. And I think right now in 2020, we're starting to come back to that real community base where, you know, whether it be the coaches or the owners understand the importance of that again, or start to realise their business depends on it. I think that there has been a pullback into community, and I think it's taken a long time. And I don't think that there's been any negative from, say, the games or the Netflix docos or anything like that, because they're just constant exposure to the sport. But I think that each individual, because it is because everyone can run their own piece, I think that everybody brings their own flavour. And unfortunately, the growth of the sport and how easy it is to open these things, that maybe we had a lot of people doing it for the wrong reasons, and they weren't doing it for the community. They weren't doing it for the love of, you know, wanting to train people at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning and 8, 9 o'clock at night, knowing everybody's names, understanding what they do for work, making sure they're part and supportive of what they do, helping them with nutrition, helping them with weightlifting, running seminars on the weekends, things like that. So they were really kind of a staple when I started CrossFit. Your coach would sort of offer those things so that as a sport or as a community, you guys could collectively come together and then move forward through the sport, and hopefully that would overflow into your life, those small percentages that you get. So, I think it's been through its ups and downs, but I think that slowly we're starting to see this nice rise of it again, and that could just be my biased opinion, but I think we're in a really great place. These days I do a lot more weightlifting. Obviously that's the sport that I like to compete in, but I definitely try to hit 2 or 3 of these a week. I also like to get in and get shown up by the wife, so that's cool. CrossFit as a strength and conditioning tool, or as a gym per se, I still think it's the best tool on earth. The reason I run this gym and go and coach out in the public is I do think that this is the best overall piece you can give someone for longevity and health. There's so much convoluted information, but the one thing that rings true is that if you get people moving better, eating better, sleeping better, and get a community around them, then they're going to have a longer life. So I think that the premise of this outweighs every negative you hear, and the way we deliver it and the way that our gym delivers it is something that I'm very proud of, and I hope that other gyms and other boxes and other CrossFit brands are representing themselves and representing the name in the light that they feel respected for and that they are proud of, because this is something that I believe is very special to a lot of people, not just me. So yeah.